Deadlines spur action, but sometimes it takes to the final hour. With 6 Eastern fast approaching, the Dodgers and Tigers striking the deal of the day. Detroit sending starter Jack Flaherty to the NL hopefuls in return for a pair of top 25 prospects in that Dodgers farm system. Flaherty making his way to LA on a 1-year deal as a possible remedy to consistent rotation ailments. Elsewhere, the Padres push their chips into the middle, acquiring all-star closer Tanner Scott from the Marlins. Heading back to the MIA, a massive haul. 4 San Diego prospects in total, including 3 of their top 5. Miami stockpiling prospects in another deal as well. The Orioles active in their pursuit of an AL East title and beyond. Namely, Marlins starter Trevor Rogers making his way to Charm City. The O's also adding an oft-injured slugger in the form of now former White Sox, Eloy Jimenez. Here's a look at a number of other notables. You see Scott and Flaherty there at the top of the board. Josh Bell also finding a new home. Paul Blackburn, Paul DeYoung also making his way from the south side to Kansas City. One ear on the phone, the other to the ground. Our insider, Jim Bowden, doesn't sleep until the dust settles. JB, we appreciate you keeping us covered here until the final moments because, frankly, that's when the biggest deal came down at 5:55 around there. Jack Flaherty becoming a Dodger. What can you tell us about how that deal came together in those final moments?
Yeah, incredible that the Dodgers were able to get Jack Flaherty for as little of prospects as they had to give up. Trey Sweeney, who used to be a New York Yankee first-round pick, they had acquired last year for a couple of major league relief pitchers, and then Thomas Lorenzo, the catcher first baseman in the deal, hitting .222. Like, it's a really light return, which is really shocking. Because Jack Flaherty, without a doubt, was the best starting pitcher that was traded at the entire deadline. This is a guy with the Tigers that is now pitching the same way he did for the Cardinals in 2019 when he finished top 4 in the Cy Young voting. He's got 7 wins, an ERA under 3. He's got 133 punch-outs. And, oh, by the way, his secondary stuff are all wipeout pitches. Opposing batters hitting 195 against the slider, 175 against the knuckle curve, and 143 against the change, culminating with a 2.8 WAR and a 0.9 WHIP. It's unbelievable that the Dodgers could wait out the system. Now, Joe, let me tell you what blows my mind. The Toronto Blue Jays got more for Yusei Kikuchi than the Tigers got for Jack Flaherty. I mean, that's almost incomprehensible. And the other thing I just can't understand is where were all the other contending teams allowing the Dodgers to get Flaherty for such a small return? It was the last trade we heard about. It was the biggest shocker we heard about. And it was the best starting pitcher that was moved.
High drama there in the final moments. And when you frame it the way you did, a big win for the Dodgers, who have had issues keeping those serviceable arms in a starting rotation. Elsewhere, Padres stating their intentions clearly. Tanner Scott and his 90% save rate making his way to San Diego. The Marlins, in turn, reconstructing a bottom third farm system in really a couple of hours. Any issue with the assets the Padres were willing to part with to get this deal done?
Well, look, what happened here really is A.J. Preller said, outside of catcher Ethan Salas, I'm going to dump my farm system, and I'm going to try to win a World Series right here, right now. I got a chance, and I'm going to take advantage of the window that I have to win. It's not just the trade for Tanner Scott, which they gave up 4 really good prospects to get him, including 3 of their top 5 prospects, but it's also the deal they made the day before with Tampa Bay to get Jason Adam. And that was a huge haul that Tampa Bay was able to get back. So, look, A.J. Preller has never been afraid to trade his best prospects. That's exactly what he did. But now think about the bullpen that he has built there in San Diego. Robert Suarez is an impact closer. So is Tanner Scott. Jason Adam is one of the best setup relievers there is in the game. He has now built the best 7th, 8th, 9th inning relief corps in the entire National League, which bodes well not just for the rest of this pennant race, but when you get to October and the bullpen becomes so important. So he paid a big price, no question about it. Both the Tampa Bay Rays and Miami Marlins did extremely well in the prospect returns for these deals. It made a lot of sense for them. But let's talk about the Padres, because now, you know what, they're going to be in a race with the Dodgers. This isn't over yet. And if not, they're certainly in a very strong position to get one of the wild card berths.
Yeah, the terms of that deal certainly welcome the pressure to perform into that clubhouse in San Diego now. Sometimes, JB, we know the biggest news are the deals that don't get done. Last couple weeks, it was a matter of where, not if, White Sox starter Garrett Crochet would land. To a lesser degree, Blake Snell also making some headlines. Both stay put. JB, specific to Crochet, some saying his camp overplayed their hand in these negotiations. Where was the disconnect between he, the Sox, and a potential suitor?
The disconnect came last Thursday when his agents from CAA went public with the news that if Garrett Crochet was traded, he would not pitch in October in the playoffs or the World Series unless he was able to get a long-term contract first. The agent also made it very clear that they didn't want him to go more than 140 or 150 innings, which means he only had 3 or 4 starts left. That completely diminished the trade market for him. And although the White Sox continued to listen to the very end, the fact that teams weren't willing to give him a long-term deal at the time of the transaction, the fact that they didn't believe they would be able to pitch him like they would want to, it just didn't work out. So now the White Sox pulled him off of the trade market, and they can put him back on in the offseason. And by the way, they might get just as much then, because you still control a pitcher for 2 more years. And you're going to have a lot of non-contending teams that have a lot of prospects. Teams like the Washington Nationals that weren't bidding now that might bid when it comes into the winter. But that was a big setback for the White Sox rebuilding program, because remember, they're on pace to lose 110 games, and instead of getting the first pick in the draft next year, they're going to get the 10th pick. So this was their one shot to get star prospects back in a clear seller's market. So this was a real blow. But look, he's not the only guy that didn't get moved. The Tigers shopped Tariq Skubal, who's in the running for Cy Young. They never got an offer even close to continue the conversation. And although Blake Snell kind of went on the market on Thursday and they kind of listened to teams, the fact of the matter is they won the last 4 games. Coming into Monday, they were only 3.5 games out. Snell's last 4 starts, he looked like the Cy Young Award winner from last year. Robbie Ray came off the IL looking like the Cy Young Award winner he was when he won one back in Toronto a few years back. And all of a sudden, San Francisco said, look, we're going to lower our payroll, but we still got a chance to win here. We're not going to get the offer that it's going to take to trade Snell. So at the end of the day, Crochet, Skubal, Snell all stayed put.
Yeah, some big arms there, no doubt about it, that we had tabbed as potentials, but there are certainly games out in front of some of those guys, not namely Garrett Crochet. A lot of inconsequential baseball out in front of him. With that in mind, we do have to offer some headlines here, winners and losers. Let's start in the negative. Your biggest loser coming out of the trade deadline is who?
Yeah, I mean, the Chicago White Sox are the biggest loser, I'm sorry, but they did not get the return they needed from Eric Fedde and Michael Kopech. I didn't understand why they put them in the same deal, a 3-way deal, and trading both of them along with right-handed outfielder Tommy Pham. You got 3 infielders back. Now, granted, one of the 19-year-old kids has some upside, maybe a star someday, but he's 3-4 years away, high risk, high reward. You know, I like Miguel Vargas, but he couldn't find a starting spot with the Dodgers. You know, no pitching prospects back. You're going to trade 2 pitchers, major league pitchers, and not get any pitching back. It was a really light return, and then you're not able to trade Crochet. You decide not to trade Luis Robert. Sure, you were able to move some peripheral pieces like Eloy Jimenez, get his money off the books. Paul DeJong went on to Kansas City. I get it. But you didn't get the prospects back that it takes to rebuild. So really disappointing trade deadline for the White Sox and rookie GM Chris Getz. And then also, I'd say the Rockies and Twins. You know, the Rockies traded a couple left-handed relievers. The Twins end up trading for Trevor Richards. That's it. I mean, those 3 teams just didn't do enough.
Yeah, an abject failure there on the south side. That's coming from someone who grew up at the stadium, JB, but low times there for the Chicago White Sox. Let's finish things on a positive note here. Your biggest winner at the deadline was who?
Well, I'm gonna start with the biggest winners that were sellers. The Miami Marlins and Tampa Bay Rays absolutely crushed this trade deadline. I have never in my entire life ever seen sellers do any better than what took place at this trade deadline. And the Marlins and Rays just rebuilt their farm system overnight. And that now they're both going to be in the top 5. It's incredible what they were able to do to take advantage of a very unique market that will probably never happen again at this level. So congrats to both of them. But I'll also want to tell you, and then look at this board. Look at all the prospects that the Marlins got. I mean, this is Connor Norby, your everyday second baseman or third baseman. Robbie Snelling, the best pitching prospect the Padres have. Dylan Head, a guy that can lead off and give speed. I mean, this is a huge rebuild of a farm system. But I also want to mention some of the winners of contending teams, because we have to do that. I really felt like the Mariners were big winners to be able to get Randy Arozarena and Justin Turner, as well as reliever Jimmy Garcia. The Padres, big winners to be able to get Tanner Scott and Jason Adam like they did. The New York Yankees with Jazz Chisholm and Mark Leiter, huge moves for them. The Phillies with Carlos Estevez, who's going to really help the back end of that bullpen, along with Austin Hayes. They needed a right-hand hitting outfielder to help them against left-hand pitching. And then, of course, the Dodgers, who finished with Flaherty and Kopech and Edman. At the end of the day, they were all the big winners of this trade deadline.
Jim Bowden, we appreciate you as always. I know sleep is sort of relative this time of year for a man on the inside, but you deserve some. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, here's a look at your odds to win the World Series. Our friends at FanDuel always adjusting, tweaking as the changes come in. The Dodgers started there, but will they finish there? A little better than 3-1 money to get it done. The Phillies, despite their drubbing at the hands of the Yankees in Game 1 on Monday, still an edge over the Bronx Bombers there as the second favorite to win the World Series. The Yankees, the top AL squad in your odds.